Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now September 30th of 2023, and given that Bob Iger and the Disney Board of Directors have really been in a constant shakeup in order to figure out exactly what to do with the current status of Disney, everything ranging from the cost containment plan to the budgeting restrictions as well as massive cutbacks, and let's not forget about the ongoing Disney purge. That's also another concern on their end of the spectrum. But we also know that everything else happening with Disney, we know, is going to be a very big, serious deal for themselves at the next up-and-coming earnings call, which, by the way, takes place in the first week of November. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. And, well, one thing about actress Rachel Zegler has been quite disastrous as it turns out. Now, we know that Rachel Zegler has cost the rest of Disney's image, as I like to say. Whatever image that they had left were, of course, or was destroyed by Zegler's viral interviews for Snow White 2024, based on what she said about Andrew Burnap, and also what she said about Snow White, the 1937 original. A lot of what she said, believe it or not, was not instructed by Disney for her to say. And some of which was, alright, that's the truth, but some of it was not. And that's ultimately what got Zegler in deep trouble over at Disney. Now, this is where matters get even worse, as it turns out, behind closed doors, is that a lot of things where Zegler, of course, put herself into this deep hole has a lot to do not just with the viral interviews, but also with her negotiations behind the scenes between herself, her agent and manager going up against Disney for pay increases on multiple franchises and more. However, with Snow White, the live-action remake, going through endless issues currently for Disney, one major development has to do with actress Rachel Zegler and her banishment from Disney, where, as it turns out, is a whole lot serious than we knew beforehand. Due to Rachel's viral interviews revolving around Snow White, as it turns out, Zegler was fired and removed from a 10-year movie deal by Disney, where they removed her from the Pirates reboot, a handful of live-action and animated films. However, the more surprising element of this is that Zegler was holding multiple conversations with Disney on joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a popular superhero in an all-female-led focused film or TV show in the near future that Disney has been working on, that will be, by the way, announced next year at one of their earnings calls. Now, this is a massive deal that Zegler was close to obtaining until until Snow White and those interviews spoiled the whole process, as she got fired and removed from everything Disney, including all of these conversations about the MCU. Now, Zegler was also in the process to get hired in what Disney is planning to become the Acolyte Season 2 as well for the Star Wars franchise. And what's really not so shocking about that is that we know that The Acolyte, by the way, guys, is an all-female-led Star Wars TV show, and not in a good way. You know, not in a story-driven way or a character development process. It is purely done by Leslie Headland, who, by the way, is a very toxic showrunner, a very toxic individual, and even has personal issues with creator George Lucas. We talked about this before in the past, about how she literally wants to destroy his entire legacy. She wants to unburden herself from his philosophy. But not to get too off subject here, the fact that Zegler was this close to obtaining roles for both the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Star Wars franchise is all the more that you need to know about how Disney loves self-sabotage. They seem to be obsessed with self-sabotage. You know, we have seen what they had done with Kathleen Kennedy, keeping her on board after the sequel trilogy, destroying the Kenobi show, the Boba Fett show, and a whole lot more on top of that, including many of her contributions, by the way, with Kevin Feige, wreaking havoc on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which, by the way, in case you guys did not know, is exactly why, you know, the last phase of movies really have not been quite up to the status of the phase before that. Now, moving onwards, this is where matters get even more serious for Rachel Zegler. So as it turns out, she was not only going to get the Pirates reboot and that multi-film franchise and a handful of just regular Disney animated and live-action movies, but she was also set to get Marvel films as well as a Star Wars TV show that was aimed to be the Acolyte Season 2. And mind you guys, this is exactly what they want to do with the Acolyte. They want to make this into a multi-season show where it's going to be all about stripping and destroying George Lucas's philosophy of Star Wars and moving on from there. So let's get to the next thing here. Now, what's interesting about all of this is that Zegler wanted to span out into becoming a part of nearly every genre that there is out there to make her career flourish. This was a business move by her agent and manager that they actually reasoned with Disney over the last couple of months until things fell off a cliff. Zegler, unlike the role, of course, she actually auditioned for when it came to The Flash as Supergirl, was just days away from shaking hands on a deal to portray a popular MCU character. The character is still a mystery, but if things unfold, we will update. Actress Jenna Ortega is already in the process of taking over Zegler's 10-year movie deal in order to expand her career instead of just focusing on horror movies or shows like Wednesday and the Scream franchise. Had Zegler landed the Marvel movies and even a Star Wars TV show for Acolyte Season 2, this would have certainly poisoned both franchises at no end. Zegler reportedly nailed those roles, and that they were actually hers, based on the conversations that she was having with Disney, and how they were still in the final stages until she tainted the whole progress between her agent, manager, and the Disney higher-ups after those viral interviews spun out of control for Snow White 2024. So again, I mean, like I say, this would have really been the final nail in the coffin in a way where it would have been, you know, a real, I guess you could say, self-sabotage style. You know, we all know that Disney loves to do this, you know, because why put all your bets on one actress that is not fully established yet is beyond me. How was she getting all these roles? Who knows? You know, it really doesn't make sense. As something is up with that whole process, I always found it to be a little weird how Zegler was getting all these roles like left and right in such a short amount of time on all, by the way, on these big movies, or what are supposed to be big movies, that have been a bomb after the other. Now, we all saw what happened with West Side. We all saw what happened with Fury of Gods. That's 2 box office failures right off the bat. We all know Snow White will be as well, so that's 3. She's really banking on Hunger Games succeeding to kind of give herself a little bit of a lift, and even if it does succeed, it's still not enough based on what she has in the roster of her upcoming films. And it's really not looking good in the least. So, overall, guys, you know, I think that there's a lot at play here, and I would like to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.